What's going on, Cashflow Hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and I am here with Brian Blatt, who you guys probably haven't seen before. He's never been on the channel. Brian and I met on LinkedIn, of all places. You live in Texas, don't you, Brian?
Yes, sir. That's right.
So Brian and I have never met in person, but we reached out, we connected on LinkedIn, and we just hit it off. I think we have a lot of shared values, a lot of similar perspectives, and Brian wrote a book that we're going to talk about a little bit, which is a phenomenal book. And it's one of the big reasons that I wanted to bring him on the channel. But here's the deal. Really what I want to cover today is just ultimately talking about your book and the principles. And I want to hear the story. And I think the story of what really drove you to write this book is going to be impactful for a lot of people. And ultimately I want to hear about what you do in your life, to be successful, because I think that's one of the things that we don't hear enough about. I get really technical on this channel. I talk about a lot of the nerdy, X's and O's of life insurance and all that kind of stuff a lot. But this is a leadership book, I would call it, like a leadership development book, and I think it's a great starting point or launch pad, I think, for a lot of young people. I've got my 12-year-old daughter reading it right now. This bookmark is hers. She's on letter Y right now, which is fantastic. She's almost done. And she's been giving me amazing feedback. So it's been really cool having her go through it and talking about it to her. It's lessons from the breakfast table. Ironically, I've been talking to my daughter about it at the dinner table, but it's just really cool. And I think the messaging in it is fantastic. And so before getting into all this, though, I would love to have you give a quick introduction about who you are, and ultimately what inspired you to write this book.
Yes. Thank you for that, Chris. And I guess, and so before I do that too, I want to say hats off to you and what you're doing with Life 180. I've seen a lot of your material, and hence that's why I was kind of reaching out to you on LinkedIn and wanted to share this project with you. So can't say enough good things about what you're doing. So,
Thanks,
keep it up. And again, thanks for having me on.
No intention of stopping.
There you go. Yeah. So as Chris said, my name's Brian. This project really was it was a self-development project for myself and really for my children. I have two younger kids, and, as we all do as parents, right, we're always trying to educate the kids and teach them to become better versions of themselves, right? And so in doing that, you're always kind of looking for different ways, different stories, different analogies to help, get through to them on some of the important concepts, that I've been taught throughout my life, both via, stories and experience. And frankly, those lessons that we all know that we've heard from kind of, the wisdom of the ages before us, right? So really the project began as, each week we just started, we went down through the letters of the alphabet, and each week we'd put, okay, this week's A, so A's for attitude, right? And that was on our chalkboard. And so that was
nice,
right? That was the focus discussion of the week. Okay, why is attitude, right, so important? And we'd spend some time talking about that. And then throughout the week, I would ask them, how their day was at school. Okay, now, as they would share the stories, it was, okay, well, tell me, how did a positive attitude, help the situation, right? And so we just carried on, down through the letters week by week. And it was probably, about halfway through the alphabet before, this thought and idea of, hey, it'd be good to kind of memorialize this into a book.
Yeah.
That frankly has been, one of, the favorite projects I've done, to this point, just to see the kids, respond and, how cool they think it is. And they love talking about, the book to their friends. And, it's just been a lot of fun.
Love it.
And so certainly it was written for them, but to be honest, the lessons are applicable certainly to myself. Right. So in writing the book, it was a great reinforcement
totally.
to myself about these principles. Right. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Let's actually talk about that real quick, because one of the things I tell, I do a lot of coaching of life insurance agents, and this community, we got about 50% people that are interested in getting life insurance for themselves, and about 50% of the audience is people who are life insurance professionals and looking to get better at their craft. And one of the things that I always tell people is, if you want to get better at doing what you're doing, you need to go like create a YouTube channel or write a book or do something, because the process in and of itself is going to make you better at what you do. And I think people get it backwards. They think, I've got to be as good as Chris before I go start a YouTube channel. I've got to be as good as, Brian before I can write a book. And it's like, nothing could be further from the truth. I would say the opposite is true, that the process of video creation and creating content on a regular basis, the process of outlining a book and, doing the research and like putting the book together and going through the editing process and really honing in your thoughts and learning how to speak about all this stuff articulately and like organizing everything is going to make you better. So like, how did that work for you?
Yeah, that is, as you so spot on. Can't agree with you more. As you were saying that, it's, I'm a football fan as well. So you think of those individuals who have achieved at the highest level, they're inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's like, okay, well, as soon as I get inducted into the Hall of Fame, then I'll start practicing and trying out for a team, right? So to your point, it's the process that gets you there, right? And and so the writing a book, I'd say that was in the back of my mind, for some time, and you listen, you feed yourself, a lot of doubts, right? Fear is such an ugly monster, right? Totally. You get the those thoughts in your mind that says, well, I'm not articulate enough, right? I'm an engineer by trade, so I didn't become an engineer because I was a strong reader and writer, right? So I had that kind of fighting through those monsters, and ultimately the lessons within this book, right? It's teaching these important principles and disciplines to help you, frankly, overcome fear and take action, right? So as I was communicating and trying to teach these lessons to my children, it's like, okay, I don't want to be just listen to what dad says, but don't do what he does, right? I wanted to actually totally lean into it a little bit.
You want to be a product of the product, right? You want to go out and do it and practice what you preach. So talk to me about your kids here, because I've got 3 kids, 12, 9, and 5. My 5-year-old still thinks I know what I'm talking about, but the other two, the oldest definitely is starting to be like, Dad, like, I don't really want to hear any of your advice. And like, I don't care that you run a YouTube channel and all these people listen to you and think you're, intelligent. I think you're just my dad, and, probably thinks a lot worse than that, actually. But like, my 9-year-olds are, starting to hit that phase where he's like, probably starting to question as well. Like, and it's frustrating, right? Like, and honestly, this book has been really helpful, right? Because if I would go to her and I would tell her the same exact concepts, probably, maybe not exactly the same, but like the overall general like outline of it all, right? You did a great job like organizing it in a really entertaining way as well, which is cool. But like, the coolest part about this for me as a father is I could give this to her and it's not me giving her advice, right? It's her getting it from some third-party source that is trusted, that makes sense to her, that's entertaining to her, that she can dissect on her own, and then we can talk about it after the fact. And so then when I say things that kind of back up and emulate, or I can coach her to what's being taught in the book, and principles in the book, and we can have a conversation around that, it's extremely helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, if I had $1 for every time my dad said to me, so I would come home as a child and say, hey, Dad, and I would, whatever it was. Totally. And he would get, he would just kind of get upset, or not upset, but he'd be like, I have told you that 100 times.
Oh,
and
totally.
Because when I say it, like it means nothing. He goes, now the first time you hear it somewhere else, I vividly remember that conversation with my dad many times. And as a child, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's just human nature, though. Like, I mean, kids don't listen to their parents the same way they listen to other people. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and I guess to that end, so the book is centered around, my family and my kids, right? Having these discussions at the breakfast table. And so even, time has gone by and we still talk about the book and the letters, but occasionally I'll trip them up on a letter that, we may not reference as much. Right.
Yeah.
You'll see them kind of scratch their heads. Okay. Yeah. What was that word? What was that lesson?
Nice.
Right. And I'm like, you kids were the star of the book. You've got friends that know this word, right?
Nice. That's awesome. Well, so talk, what was it like? I mean, it's pretty obvious to me, like, you were inspired to do this because you wanted to help your family, and that's great, right? And you wanted, this is kind of like a legacy play, right? In a sense that, like, all right, this is going to be something that goes way beyond, even if it didn't touch me and my kids or other people and their kids, it's going to have an impact in your kids and hopefully your grandkids and great grandkids. And like, this is going to be something that is generational, right? Like, that's one of the cool parts about doing something like this and writing a book and having it. And so that must feel amazing, first of all, to know that you've accomplished that and that you've kind of like got this, I don't know, this asset, I'd call it, right? That is able to be handed down and make a generational impact, that goes way beyond money, right? Like, it goes way beyond what most people think about as important of handing down. Like, there's a guy, he owns Gravy Stack. His name is Chris Donnell. Have you ever heard of Gravy Stack?
No, I have not.
So Gravy Stack is a great app that's focused on helping teach financial literacy and stewardship to kids. And it teaches them, and it helps parents help navigate how to teach their kids how to handle money. And it's phenomenal stuff. And one of the things Chris says that really hit me when I was talking to him was, it's not what we leave to our kids that matters most, it's what we leave in our kids that matters most. And this book is not leaving something to them, it's teaching them something that they'll have inside, right? Like, which is so important. And so that's pretty cool. But like, what if I had to go through and ask you, like, all right, I'm sure, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I didn't prep you for this, right? But there's 26, because it's the alphabet, right? There's 26 letters in the alphabet, right? So we got 26 words that you're going through here.
Yeah.
It's basically like leadership skills from A to Z is really what this book is all about, or keys to success from A to Z is right on the book, which is great. And it's really that simple. But out of all the things, give me your top 2 or 3 that you talk with your kids about, the letter that comes up the most at the breakfast table, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And yeah, absolutely. I do believe there are some cornerstone, words throughout there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna, what I'll say is, I have the words and I'll get to them. I guess the reason I'm hemming and hawing is so there's a great, probably the next to the Bible, what I would say is from a personal development, kind of the granddaddy book of them all, is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Sure.
Right. And so within that book, I remember the first time I read that book, at each chapter, he would say, and you're that much closer to uncovering the master key secret, the supreme secret.
Sure.
And he goes all the way through the book and he never tells you what it is. Right.
Yep.
And I remember it drove me nuts. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Right. And I wasn't ready to receive it. I was early in my 20s, et cetera, et cetera. So what I will say is, I won't say which one for anyone that's going to read that and kind of can uncover that for yourself. I would say that it is one of the words, and it is one of the words that I believe to be the cornerstone, one of the cornerstones. But with that, so I would say, belief, right? The belief is absolutely paramount, right? If you can hope, wish, dream, have great attitudes, but in your core essence, if you genuinely don't believe, right, that you can work through it. Yep. To me, that's a big one. Belief is really important.
Yep.
Certainly, the positive attitude, and frankly, with the underlying belief, that's going to drive attitude. If you don't believe some endeavor is possible, like
it's hard to have a negative attitude when you're full of belief. That's right.
100%.
That's what Yeah, it's kind of like they say, it's hard to be actually clinically depressed when you're full of gratitude, right?
There you go. Oh boy, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But you're going to get me talking long enough. I'll probably go through. But I'll tell you the other one that we talk quite a bit about, and frankly, so much so that I gave it 2 letters, was persistence, and then I followed up with it within. I just used never quit. Right.
I love it.
And and I mean, we all know the lesson, right? We've all heard the stories, but I mean, truly, if you don't quit, you can't be beat, right? Just keep plugging.
I love it. Have you seen the quote that I use on the bottom of my emails?
Calvin Coolidge.
Calvin Coolidge, exactly. You've seen it? Yeah.
That's it. I'm reading it right now.
So nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
Love it. Fully agree. 100%.
Right? Yep.
100%. Yeah, and I think part of it is our expectations. So it's the story we tell ourselves about, we don't foresee so many obstacles that it's going to take to be overcome to achieve whatever result we're looking for. And it's that short-sightedness that then people just get frustrated and they move on, right? But again, if you understand, hey, there will be mistakes, there will be plenty of obstacles, it's part of the journey, right? That too will help kind of build that fortitude and persistence that you need ultimately to achieve it.
I love it. Yeah. And another thing when you started talking about belief that came up to me, there's a great book. Have you ever read the book David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell?
No, I have not.
So you got to read that book. So there's a section in there. It's interesting because he's not really talking about belief, but what he's talking about is confidence, self-confidence.
Okay.
And so they've done studies, and this is a fascinating thing, where if they actually did a study at Harvard, and listen, I come from a family that didn't really prioritize education and all that stuff, and but my wife, her father, is hardcore education. Even my 12-year-old, he's already like, you're going to go to Stanford Law. And I'm like, yo, grandpa, settle down. It's not necessarily where my values are right now. I think education is way overpriced, and I'd rather, pay somebody that, is out there doing it to mentor than pay $200,000 to a college. But that's just me right now, but the thing that Malcolm Gladwell uncovered, and what this Harvard study uncovered, was that confidence is the most important element to success that we have. And think about it this way, because everywhere we go, you work at a great company, everywhere you go, every company, every school, every organization always has a top percentile and a bottom percentile. So it's great that you can get into Harvard, but when you get to Harvard, what then, right? If you get there and you're a bottom 10% or 25% performer, and then you're looking around, you're always going to have a comparison element, right? And if you're in the bottom 25%, you're going to have less confidence. And they did this study over 30 years. It's like, everybody's like, oh, if you could get into Harvard, you should just go to Harvard, right? That's a no-brainer. That's what I think the overriding principle would be for most people, is if you can get into Stanford Law, you should go to Stanford Law. But what happens if you could get in because Stanford's got to fill their class, but you get in and you're at the bottom 25%?
Wow.
Right? Wouldn't you be better off to go to maybe a little bit of a lower echelon school and be in the top 10% in that echelon, or maybe even the top 2% in that school, and build your confidence, and that will open up more opportunity for you, right? Because I don't care who you are, if you're in the bottom 25% at Harvard, it's great that you're there, but you're not going to get opened up the opportunities that the way that all the other people are.
Sure.
And in the process, your self-confidence is going to get beaten down. Wow. And your belief is going to get crushed, And so the idea of belief and self-confidence and setting yourself up for success, I don't know how that all correlated to me, but when you were saying it, it made me think about my kids. It made me think about what people are doing and what people think to be true about ways to handle things. And I think, you know, the way I look at it is I don't care if you're looking to be a life insurance agent or if you're looking to be, you know, a corporate employee or whatever. I mean, you work for a really good company, right? Like, we're not going to talk about the company name or anything like that, but it is a top notch like company that every single person in the world would know, right? Now, you could go work for a smaller company, and my guess is you're pretty good, you know, where you are, but there's plenty of people in your organization, I'm sure, that are at the bottom echelon, right? Like at the bottom 25% as far as performance, but they could go to a smaller company and probably be a higher performer, right? And it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I just look at it for our kids, and I would just encourage everybody watching this, like, if you have kids going through school, I think there's a lot of pressure put on kids just to perform for performance sake, not thinking about like, how are we setting our kids up for success to develop their own self-confidence and putting them in a position where they're actually going to succeed, not just seeking status, you know, through the system.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, fully agree. And you know how critically important confidence is. You know, and as frankly as I think about my journey throughout life, right? You know, I've done a few things. You know, still in my mind, I've got a long way to go. Like, but at different, you know, junctures along the way.
Yeah.
As I reflect back, you're right, bang on. It's when that belief was burning and that confidence was really at its peak, man. That's when things were really happening for me. And yeah, no, that is something to really reflect on. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, so I was gonna say, so talk to me about like your journey writing this book, because you do work for a good company, you have a W-2 job, like you're not like most people I bring on this channel who are like full-time real estate investors and, you know, entrepreneurs and all this stuff. You're a little bit of an outlier in the sense that you're going to work every day, you work for a big corporation, you do your thing, and then you decided to write this book on the side, and you're doing some real estate investing on the side, and you really resonate with our foundational principles about money and how money works and utilizing whole life insurance and doing all these different things, right? And so like, how did you come to get to this place where you're like this company man and doing this stuff over here? Like, because that's an interesting blend for me.
Yeah.
Right?
A bit of a hybrid. Well, I mean,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, no, that is, no, I appreciate that. You know, part of it is, you know, I do work for a great company. I am paid, you know, well, you know, I've got a, you know, but life is fine, right? But it's this ongoing kind of pursuit or hunger or drive, and not only selfishly for myself to, you know, for any kind of status that I gain, but really it's driving and showing my kids kind of what hard work, discipline, you know, right? What you can really achieve in life. And I think, you know, it's really, you know, that's really fueling my fire, is trying to be there for them, to be able to inspire them, to say, hey, you can have kind of both worlds. Sure. You know, the entrepreneurial spirit, certainly with the, you know, we've got some real estate on the go in the book. So I do have that. But at the same time, too, right? It's the thought of, okay, would just jump in, you know, like you've done that. That is amazing. That's awesome. This is kind of, you know, you have the security and the good cash flow from this.
Yep.
Now what I'm trying to do is to you know, take as much of that income put aside to, you know, further invest in their, you know, cash flow producing assets.
Yep.
Right. To set me up, you know, longer term from now.
I love it. Now, how old are your kids?
Yeah, they are 12 and 10.
All right.
Yeah, so they are, I'd say the 12-year-old, yep, she sees right. The 10-year-old's getting there as well.
Yep. Well, if you ever make it to Arizona, we'll get the kids together and they can trash on us together. How about that?
There you
go. No, that's funny. Now, so wow. I mean, man, it's here's what I want to say. I want to make a good pitch for this, because talk to me about how everybody can get this, because I know it's on Amazon, right?
That's right. That's right.
And I would just say, as I'm doing this, I know I said it once already, but seriously, the beautiful part about this book, you're not going to be as lucky as me. He's not going to sign it and write you a nice passage like he did for me, because it's going to come from Amazon. But the cool part is, like, each chapter is between 5 pages, right? Like in something in that range, 3.
Right.
So I think one of the coolest parts of this book is, I think one of the reasons people don't actually read enough is because, they open a book. This is Garrett Gunderson's new book. He sent it to me, and, love Garrett, but like, this first chapter is 24 pages. So unless I'm willing to go in here and read 24 pages at a time, which for a lot of people could be a half hour or so like that, they may not dedicate to doing it. Right. So like, to know that you could just open it before you go to bed, have your kids read it, whatever, read it to your kids. It's a good like nighttime story. If you want to, like, as your kids are getting older, read it to them as they're going to bed. Like, cause I think people stop reading to their kids way too young. I think that's another great way you could do it. And, you could literally read 3 to 5 minutes and you got a story, you got a good conversation, around it. And so I would really encourage everybody to go get the book, read it yourself, read it with your kids, read it to your kids, give it to your kids to read, and have conversations around it. I think we need to have better conversations with our kids. We need to challenge our kids more. We need to encourage our kids more. We need to, I'm a big believer, we need to encourage our kids to fail and give them the confidence to fail, right? Like, I think they're too scared. Too often kids are too scared to fail, worried about being judged, worried about how their peers are going to perceive them. And, my wife and I could tell you, like, we just try to create an atmosphere where it's like, if you're not failing, then we're disappointed. I'm not disappointed if you're perfect. Like, I'm not impressed at your perfection. I'm disappointed at you. Like, I want to see you fail. I want to see you push yourself to fail. I want you're outside your comfort zone. I want, I want the ugly, because that's how you grow.
That's right.
100%.
Well, I tell you what, I think you've touched on some things to where maybe lessons from the lunch table won't be far in the future, right?
Yeah, that honestly, like, it could be. I mean, I think you should write a sequel, because I've already thought, and I'm not going to say it on this, but because there's a lot of these letters, you could probably do multiple words, and I'd be,
100%.
curious. I would love to see your journal and your notebook, like, as your Google Doc or whatever you were using to put this together, to be like, all right, like, C, what did you choose here? C was, for choice.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, so it's like, C could be a lot of different words, right? So like, I'd love to see your journal about like all the different words you were like filtering through and seeing, like, how you chose what you chose.
Yeah. No, that was, this spot
That
on.
must have been a hard process.
I learned some synonyms, right?
Totally.
So X marks the spot for goals, how important goals are, right? And so
yeah.
You just, there was, that's right. Yeah. My journal, you'd see kind of the scratch through and that thought process.
That's awesome.
But bang on.
That's cool, man. Well, I tell you what, man, thanks for being here. Everybody go get this. I'm going to put a link in the description below. And what is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh yeah. No, I appreciate that. So LinkedIn, so Brian Blatt. Or Instagram, but yeah, LinkedIn's probably the platform I'm on most frequent.
The most? Okay. And so what I'll do, Brian, is I'll get your Instagram and your LinkedIn from you. I have your LinkedIn, but I'll get your Instagram from you, and I'll put those in the description below, guys, as well. Really encourage everybody to go follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on Instagram, get the book, and that's it. Anything else you want to cover before we go?
I mean, really sincerely appreciate the time here. This has been awesome. It's been a great project. I would say, we are, everyone listening into this, I promise you, your viewers, right? It's all nothing but a bunch of leaders, right? A bunch of different walks. There's a bunch of different ways to make money, but you're all leaders. So, keep doing what you're doing. The next generation, is learning from us, certainly by what we say, but more so by what we do. So, just keep being the best person you can be, and, make this world a little bit better of a place, one decision at a time.
Love it, man. Well, guys, hopefully you found value in this. I know you will if you get the book, and hopefully you found this entertaining as well. We try to have fun and pass along good information, introduce you to great people anytime we have a chance. And so that is it for now. Till next video. Have a blessed, inspirational day. Thanks for being here, Brian. See you guys soon.
All right.